Hello, welcome back to my channel. Can you retire early through investment? Well, the answer to that question is yes. The first step to retiring early through real estate investment is to save money so that you can invest in your first property. You need to assess what your discretionary expenses are and what your necessary expenses are. Some of your discretionary spending or expenses may be, extracurricular activities, travel, buying that Birkin bag or Louis Vuitton bag or heels or several items that I can list. And the necessary expenses are things that you can't usually change, as your rent, your water, your electric. So the goal of how you can enact this strategy to retire early through real estate investment, as many wealthy people have done around the world, and how people like the current American president will probably never go broke, even though he's in major debt. Trump is estimated nearly $1 billion in debt, but has assets that are valued at around $3.5 billion, which leaves him with a surplus of $2.5 billion. And that's how you calculate net worth. You take your assets minus liabilities. And so no matter how big your liabilities are, if your assets outweigh that and you're able to recoup money, you have stable assets that you can recoup money from, as long as you have a surplus, you're in the surplus with your net worth. And, real estate is a good asset to have, especially depending on what type of real estate you possess. But real estate is usually something that, increases in value, builds equity, and you can later sell it. So that's something that when you're getting a loan or when they're assessing your asset, is something that's a good asset to have, as compared with like cars that depreciate. Many cars depreciate in value. There's some bags, if you get a Birkin, that may go up, that may retain its value. Jewelry, if you get gold, it can retain its value, but even a lot of jewelry, or if you, even diamonds, as beautiful as they are, can decrease in value. So clothes definitely decrease in value. Usually cars decrease in value. And some things that you buy are just like if you eat food, it's gone once you eat it. No matter how expensive that food is, that wine is, whatever, it's gone once you've digested it. So there are certain wines that retain value or become valuable as long as you don't open it and drink it. So the goal in this strategy to retire early through real estate investment is to cover your expenses with rental income. And then you will continue to repeat the strategy over and over again, and this will help you build wealth over time. And it's not something that usually happens in a snap of a finger, but you can definitely have a 10-year plan to accomplish this once you get on this track, on this route. So, as I said, just to remind you, the goal is to cover expenses with rental income. So first you need to save 10 to 20% for a down payment on your first property. If you're in America, the strategy to employ would be to buy a 2 or 4 unit building. So, a duplex, a triplex, or a unit building. And you could live in the units and rent out the units at the same time. So let's just take an example here. And if you have a notebook, if you have pen and paper to jot down some of these items of what I'm saying, that would be great for you to utilize later. So if we take that you buy a triplex for $400,000, and this would be, just to emphasize, this would be a conventional owner-occupied loan. Now, like I said, this is something to look at, particularly in America, because this is not allowed in the UK and some other countries. So I'll explain that, how you can do something similar to this in the UK and other countries. But this is a conventional owner-occupied loan. So we'll take a triplex or higher, triplex or unit building, $400,000 loan. You put a $40,000 deposit down. And then the goal is to also save, if you can save some money also for renovation, because what you want to do is increase the value of the property so that you can make a profit and make this strategy work to continue to replicate this process. So $400,000 property, you put $40,000 down, and if you're able to put $40,000 in renovation or whatever amount of money, $40,000 into renovation, you can increase that property's value. Now it's $400,000 property, and now you're able to, let's say with $40,000 renovation, raise the property's value to $90,000. Now sometimes you can invest even lower than that in renovations and maximize the profits, maximize on profits. So if you have the $40,000 you've put down, that's already equity that you own in that property. And then the $40,000 that you also would invest, or $24,000 you would invest in renovations, if that property value now is at $490,000, so that's reasonable if you put $40,000 in, or even $24,000 to get $90,000 equity over time. Now, that value may come, it may come in a few years, it may come in 5 years. That is kind of volatile. It's unpredictable, but it definitely will add equity. It will raise the value. Also, it's good to think about trying to buy a bargain property, that needs a bit of work so that you can increase the value. If you get something that's almost ready to go and all, brand new and done and dusted, you may not be able to maximize on, raising the equity, raising the value as quickly. So a fixer-upper property would be great. So if you invest $40,000, that's already equity, and then you have $90,000 because now the property that you bought for $400,000 is worth $490,000. So you have the $90,000 plus the $40,000, which is your total equity in the property. So out of the property you initially bought for $400,000, that now after you've invested $40,000 is now worth $490,000. $90,000 plus the $40,000, now you have $130,000 in equity. So once you have acquired this equity, and like I said, it could be 3 years, it could be 5 years, whenever the property value would go up. And if you buy a fixer-upper property, and you're able to, let's say the property value in the area is $450,000, and you're able to get a property for $370,000, and then you're able to raise the value up to, $470,000 or whatever the case may be by $20,000 to $40,000 investment, then you can make a profit in that area. So you want to look at the property values around and try to maybe get a fixer-upper property in that property range so that you can increase the value faster. Because if you get a property, let's say for $400,000, it may, or closer to the $450,000, it may take you a little bit longer to get, maximize on those profits. But from the example that I mentioned, once you get to that point, you have the $490,000 value from the $400,000 property, plus you have the $40,000 maybe you've invested, so now you have $100,000, $30,000 in equity. So then the strategy is to take out or cash out refinance. So now you're refinancing $490,000 dollars. Now, most lenders will not allow you to, be able to have a loan for the total value of the property. Some will give you 75, 85%. So on the basis of an 85% cash out refinance loan, for $490,000, you would be left with $416,500 loan that they would lend to you. But since the property value is worth $490,000, and you would be getting the $416,000 loan, then you would be left with the initial value, which is the $490,000 minus the equity that you have. So it would be worth $490,000. They would give you a loan for $416,500 minus the equity. So you would be left with $56,500 approximately in profit. So the point of the cash out refinance is that the majority of the money is being paid to pay off the property that you owned or that you start the mortgage on. So you're still, this is a new loan in a sense. So you're paying off the property, but you're getting money back from whatever the difference is with the value of the property and the loan that is outstanding on the property. And that's money that gives you now to reinvest in another property. So that's how you're able to maximize on this strategy is you're purchasing a fixer-up property, okay, that is below the range of the property values or below because it needs to be fixed up. You fix up that property, then it builds equity. Together with the equity, which includes your down payment, then you apply for a cash out refinance loan. Then you will get the residuals, the difference of the value of the property minus the equity, and then you will get your money to now reinvest in another property. So you can use that example with different figures, but the key is to find a bargain property, invest in that property, fix it up, whether it be the, key things to fix up are usually the bathroom, kitchens. Those are usually selling points of houses. Build a bit of equity in that, and then you can continue to replicate that over and over and over again with, buying a property, cash out refinance, paying off the loan of that property. It gives you funds to use. And this is how, like I said, using an example of how Trump calls himself the king of debt and how he's able to still be successful and still never go broke because he has interest in so many properties and different assets. And real estate is a firm asset, tangible asset that has value and can be sold and is really something that you want to have. It's one of the best investments you can make is in real estate. So I just want to mention for the UK, it's a bit different. And I mentioned the UK because that's where I am now. But it's a bit different than the American system. The American system gives you a little bit more leeway. Here in the UK, it's in the fine print. They have strict residential laws, and it's in the fine print that if you have a residential mortgage, a regular conventional residential mortgage, you are not allowed to let out your property. While you're living in your property, you're not allowed to essentially let out your property with the residential mortgage, because a residential mortgage is intended for you to live in the property, not for you to let out the property or rent out the property or rent out the property while you're living in it. So technically in the fine print, you are not allowed, and you really are in breach of your lender's terms and conditions. What you have to do if you want to rent out your property, even though you apply for a residential mortgage, you will have to get what's called a consent to let from your lender, and they may allow you to let the property out for a period of time, or some of the terms and conditions may change. So it doesn't work the same way as America with this conventional owner-occupied loan, where you can live in the property and rent out the property and basically, do as you want with the property. Here, the closest thing that you could do is you could rent, have a rent or lease wherever you are, and then you could save for a down payment, and then you can apply for a buy-to-let mortgage, which lenders do consider is a little bit more risky, but it can provide you with the upside similar to this, where you get the buy-to-let mortgage. You are required to put a bit more down, and that's the only problem. It could be anywhere from 25% to 40%. Sometimes lenders will allow you to put down a deposit of 20%, but you're looking at least 20 to 25% on the low end and 40% on the higher end. So, it is a lot more hefty than this proposal. You're talking about 25%. So you may want to get a property, a bit lower value property, to be able to put out that kind of money, because not everyone has that 25%. But it would have to be where you put the 25%. The good part about it, compared to the American mortgage system, is that a lot of times with the buy-to-let mortgage is you have what's called interest-only payment to the lender in most cases. And so even though you're putting down the 25% deposit up front, which is higher than the 10% that you put in America, in this example, you are paying the interest-only payments, which means that the mortgage payments will be significantly lower, because you're not paying principal and interest, you're paying interest in many cases. So with that being the case, you're able to collect the rent and you're able to pay lower payments. So you can take that difference of what you're paying and you can save that money. Now, the catch is, at the end of the term, they want you to, you start to pay back, you're paying back the principal, of the mortgage loan, so that the actual mortgage. So you could do something like that and then do a refinancing as well. Or you can just get a conventional buy-to-let, but not do interest-only payments to the full mortgage payment, and then do the refinancing. And do the same thing that I mentioned here, where you buy the property, you build the equity to fix it up, and then refinance it. Take the profits, the difference of the profits, and then replicate the process. The only thing is, you may want to, a strategy here that may be better is if you can save to get multiple buy-to-let mortgages, and then you could choose to update the lender or get the approval for the sale, and then you can sell multiple properties at the same time. So what you can do is, if you wanted to save, you have the more money up front, you have the 25% up front, but then you could essentially do the interest-only payments and have multiple buy-to-let mortgages, and then you can be able to cash out, refinance, or sell those properties off, with the approval. So it could be a strategy over time, but some of them do allow, I was looking, some lenders, they allow, people have 4 or 5 buy-to-let mortgages with them over time. Obviously, you probably won't be given that initially unless you can show that capital, but under many banks' terms, up to £1 million, they give some individuals. You can have several, buy-to-let mortgages over time. So the buy-to-let mortgage is probably, with the interest-only payments, is probably the strategy more applicable in the UK as compared to with America, the conventional owner-occupied loans. So there you go. There is one strategy to retire early through real estate investment. Thanks for tuning in, and please feel free to comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you. Bye-bye.